All right, let's bypass these standard pleasantries today, fellow defenders. We are right in the middle of an active zero-day exploitation crisis. It's targeting Ivanti Endpoint Manager Mobile, or EPMM for short. So consider this intelligence explainer your early warning. It is your tactical guide. As a senior white hat security researcher, my goal today is to issue a Code Ninja security advisory. We're tracking a severe threat, and I'm broadcasting this coordinated vulnerability disclosure to make absolutely sure you have the exact intelligence required to lock down your infrastructure before it's literally too late. Let's dive right in.
72 hours. That is all we have. CISA has mandated a highly compressed 72-hour remediation window, which officially expires on May 10, 2026. This extremely tight turnaround under Binding Operational Directive 22-01 signals the absolute extreme severity of this active threat. I mean, CISA typically gives 2 weeks for known exploited vulnerabilities, right? But for this, they've given federal civilian agencies just 3 days. And look, if you are in the private sector, you need to treat this exact same deadline as a binding industry standard.
So, we are currently operating inside a rapidly closing window. The disclosure hit on May 7th. The patch deadline, like we just said, is May 10th. And based on established historical patterns from earlier this year, we can confidently project the release of public proof of concept exploits by May 11th. By May 13th, expect automated mass internet scanning to commence. This disclosure is designed to provide you with immediate mitigation protocols because we have got to force a vendor patch before that inevitable exploit cascade completely hits our networks.
Okay, so here's what we are actually dealing with. CVE 2026-6973. It's an improper input validation flaw, and it carries a high-severity CVSS score, which is our measure of vulnerability severity, of 7.2. Basically, it grants a remotely authenticated user with administrative access complete remote code execution. This means total, unhindered control over your on-premises EPMM appliance. Let me be perfectly clear about what that means. This translates to complete dominance over your entire mobile fleet identity management.
My objective with this broadcast is entirely singular. I want to force your hand to apply mitigations or to deploy the vendor patch to secure your perimeter right now. You know, we practice coordinated vulnerability disclosure precisely to outpace the adversaries. And right now, those adversaries are moving incredibly fast.
Moving into Phase 2, Security Comms Check and Link Setup.
All right, here is your tactical directive. First, make sure you subscribe to @CyberTech79 with notifications turned on for real-time safety intelligence. Treat this as a hard security necessity. Second, drop a like on this explainer right now as a formal acknowledgement of receipt, or an SCK. It just confirms this intel has actually reached your operational desk. And third, follow the next directive really closely to help us map out this threat.
I need you to drop a comment below right now stating if your EPMM infrastructure is patched or if it's vulnerable. We're running an active census here so we can collectively gauge the active blast radius of this 0 day in real time. Your operational status really helps the entire white hat community understand the true boots-on-the-ground scale of the exposure.
All right, Phase 3, the deep dive protocol and blast radius.
So, according to Shadow Server data, there are roughly 850 EPM management interfaces just sitting out there exposed to the public internet right now. And guys, every single one of these IP addresses is a target. If your appliance is in that count, your configuration is the immediate problem.
Now, this perfectly illustrates the absolute core of the crisis, what we call the credential bridge. Back in January, attackers exploited CVE-2026-1281, which got them unauthenticated root access and allowed them to steal administrative password hashes directly from the MySQL database. Now fast forward to May, those exact same threat actors are weaponizing those stolen local admin password hashes. They are using them to seamlessly bypass the authentication requirement for this brand new May 0 day.
Listen to me, this is probably the most vital piece of intelligence in this entire explainer. If you apply the January patch but you fail to aggressively rotate your administrative credentials, the adversary already possesses the cryptographic keys to your network. Patching the firmware alone in that scenario is literally like changing the locks on your house but leaving a copy of the new key right under the doormat for them. They can just log back in with an old valid admin hash and execute code without missing a beat.
And on top of that, you absolutely have to treat this May advisory as a single mandatory transaction. This update bundles fixes for multiple flaws. If you skip this update because you're thinking, oh, well, only 6973 is currently being exploited, you are leaving 4 alternative, highly critical exploitation paths completely wide open. That includes CVE-2026-5787. That is an unauthenticated flaw with an 8.9 severity score, meaning it's trivially easy to exploit and massively damaging, allowing an attacker to impersonate registered Sentry hosts and obtain valid certificate authority-signed client certificates. You just cannot afford to leave these doors unlocked.
Continuing with Phase 3, the Emergency Patch Protocol.
You need to verify your on-premises EPMM instances against this matrix immediately. If you are running versions prior to 12.6.1.1, 12.7.0.1, or 12.8.0.1, you have to push the corresponding firmware update. And once it's applied, you must actually log into the EPMM admin console and manually verify that the patched version is reporting correctly. Don't skip that validation step, it's absolutely crucial.
But look, as we've already established, just patching is not enough. You have got to execute a comprehensive identity reset. Rotate all of your admin credentials. Rotate every single LDAP-bound service account, and honestly any account used since January. Next, hunt for specific indicators of compromise. You want to look for the 403.jsp web shell in the writable directories. Hunt for the Nezha monitoring agent, and audit your logs for any unexpected MySQL dump executions against your database. And finally, sever your management interfaces from public internet access entirely, no exceptions.
With 508 instances exposed in Europe and another 182 in North America, the attack surface here is just vast. If your organization is among these internet-facing nodes, you must restrict access strictly to trusted internal networks immediately. Let me say it again. EPMM should never be reachable from the public internet under any circumstances.
Finally, Phase 4, Coordinated Vulnerability Disclosure, Ethics.
You know, as a community of white hat defenders, broadcasting this tactical intelligence isn't just helpful, it's an ethical imperative. You need to understand the true threat landscape, the mechanics of that credential bridge we talked about, and the severity of those bundled vulnerabilities to protect your architecture from the impending exploit cascade. Because at the end of the day, silence only benefits the threat actors.
So, consider this Code Ninja Security Advisory your blueprint for defense. Execute the patch protocol, rotate every single one of those credentials, hunt for the indicators we discussed, and stay secure.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a strategic thought, something you can take directly to your board of directors. With 3 0 days in just 5 months, is your infrastructure resilient enough to survive this recurring zero-day crisis on premises? Or, given the systemic exploitation surface we just keep seeing, is it finally time to permanently eliminate this attack vector by migrating to a cloud-managed MDM? Evaluate your risks, defenders. The clock is officially ticking.